St. Lucia, and welcome to yet another episode of What's Happening Now with Laura. Last week I promised that I would have on with me midwives, considering last week was Nurses Week, and we weren't able to have the nurses last week. We had the doctors, we had the medical, dental, the St. Lucia Medical and Dental Association executive with us last week, and we were supposed to have the midwives on with us this week. However, due to some, I want to say, conflict of scheduling, in scheduling, we are unable to have the midwives, and I'm not sure when next I will have them, but I will endeavor to have them on with us as soon as possible. Will not be next week, but we'll endeavor to bring them on sometime soon, because I think we need to know the information that would have been presented today is vital to women, especially women over 40 who are still bearing babies and going to be delivering after 40. So I think that's an important show to have. We've dabbled in it before. I think last year or year before last, I had a gynecologist on and talking about mothering after 40. So we will look at another side of it pretty soon. But my apologies for those of you. I know some of you called last week and asked when are we having the nurses. Let's not forget the nurses, and you wanted us to have the nurses, and I promised you we would have had the midwives, but unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond my control, we aren't able to have the midwives with us today. However, we will have an open mic, but there are a few things that I want to talk to you about. We will have an open mic, sort of, but there is a topic that I will focus a little bit more on than any other topic, and I hope that it would have opened the channels for you, the viewers, to call in and to share your thoughts and your views, because it is something, I dare say, which affects more children, more teenagers, more homes than we even can imagine. But a little bit more on that later on after the break. Before I go into that, before we take our first break, I want to talk to you about road safety. And you would have heard me in the past talk about road safety as it pertains to construction of roads, signage of roads, and the like. When the DSH road, the DSH project shut down the main road from Castries coming into Vieux-Fort, turning into that road that leads to Grace and leads and feeds into Larry Shoes. Those of you from the south, you would know what I'm talking about. So you're coming from northern direction, and you would have turned right after the hospitalium, and that road would lead you to another road on your right again, leading to Grace. And if you continue down and you follow the curve in the road, you would have found yourself in Larry Shoes Vieux-Fort. So that road was shut down, and I complained bitterly that there was not sufficient signage to let people know where the new road or the detour road would have started. And even once you found it, there was not enough signage to guide you. There wasn't any lights, there wasn't any signage to assist unfamiliar persons, especially at night, traversing this road. It was a hazard, it was a danger, and I complained bitterly that it was an accident waiting to happen. So this evening, I'm traversing the same road, and I'm thinking, okay, great. And there is more work being done on that road. I think right now, I think the term for it is Barber Green, I'm not sure. But they're pitching the road, so they're pitching the road. And I'm telling you, all of a sudden, that intersection takes on a new dimension. It just looks totally different from what it was before. However, coming into that feeder road, there is no sign saying that there are men at work. The lighting is inadequate. The lives of the men working on that stretch of road is at risk. The lives of those men working on that stretch of road are at risk. insufficient lighting, insufficient signage, insufficient warning to motorists that there are men at work and that you should be extra cautious, extra careful getting into that road. I almost took the wrong turn and I knew where I was going. And I knew I didn't see any sign where that was saying, well, the other road was open or you continue on the detour. And I was not the only one. There were 4 vehicles right there in that intersection, not knowing where to go. And the men were just there, and you could see that they're frustrated. They have to work. And it was an uncomfortable position to be in. And I'm just thinking to myself, what if there's some Mad Max just barreling down there and not seeing the men? Another accident waiting to happen. So we continue along the road and we're taking, and boom, there are 2 young men, one wearing red. And somebody very near and dear to me said to me, at night, the color you do not want on the water, open waters, is red, because it is rendered black. It is rendered invisible. And I had that experience tonight, not on the water, but on the road. So there were these 2 boys, because the road is now nice and carpetish. You know what I mean? When you have the nice Barbara Green road, everybody say now we have carpet. So here are these 2 boys with their skateboards. So they're skating on their skateboards and whatever. And one is wearing red. And at that precise moment, because like I said, the lighting was horrid, I put on my high beams and boom, there is this young boy with this other young man preparing to skateboard, and I did not see them at all. One was wearing a red shirt, and I can't remember what the color was for the other one. But the one wearing the red shirt, I did not see at all until I put on my high beams. People, our administrators, our government officials need to adhere to this warning. When you have contractors building your roads, constructing roads at night, please, 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 please insist on proper signage, proper lighting, and proper gear for the workers. I will never forget the guy who drove straight into this container, which was on the side of the road when they were constructing a stretch of road, the Grosley Highway there. I think it was around Marisol area. And drove straight under that container because there was no lights, no warning, no nothing indicating that that container was parked there. Decapitated the man. I want us to understand that lives, particularly in the South, matter too. Because a lot of the times, what does not pass muster up north happens down south, and we hear not a word, not a word, not a word from anybody with regard to these infractions. Southern lives matter. So if the contractors are listening, if there are government officials listening, please take a look at what's happening on that DSH road. Because I am certain that there are certain elements who would love nothing better for some lives, a life or some lives or any accident to happen on that road. Please be careful. Adhere to proper construction protocol when it comes to that any stretch of road that is being constructed. It is not good. It is an accident waiting to happen. And speaking of accidents waiting to happen, there is this stretch of road by Spartan University. Spartan is on one side, is on the left side, depending on where you're coming from. And the brewery is on the other side. And that road feeds into the Black Bay housing suburban area. And along that stretch of road, there are oftentimes several containers parked there. The road is not very good. I shouldn't say very good because that's a euphemism. The road is horrible. You know, a few years ago, it wasn't Yadia, it was Fonty. Fonty had this song, Tupaisi, Tupala, Getaway, that's exactly what that piece of road is like. Potholes for so. And so you always get away in the holes all over the place. And there are these containers parked on the side of the road. And sometimes at night, when it's very, very dark, they just seem like looming obstacles almost in the road, because you trying to navigate the road and trying to get away from the holes. And if anything were to happen, you were to just slip, your foot press gas instead of brakes, whoops, there it is. So whomever is responsible for those containers on that stretch of road, again, I am making the appeal. I highly doubt that this is where they're supposed to be. And if you're parking them there for a short time, a day or two, let it just be that. It cannot be that these containers are there days and weeks. It cannot be. And who are the persons responsible for seeing that these containers are removed? Who is responsible? I do not know who the containers belong to. I will not tell a lie. I don't know who they belong to. But right there in between that stretch of road with Spartan on one side and the brewery on the other side, we have these containers there, and it is horrendous. Terrible. So this is one of my main concerns this evening is about our road usage. We're constructing roads, you know, and we don't have proper signage. We don't have proper lighting. The workers don't have proper gear, you know. Not all of them have the fluorescent vests to allow motorists at night to be aware that they're there. The cones are not on the road. There are no signage saying cautious men at work. Nothing like that. You know, it's terrible. And I can see an accident happening. And then it will not have been an accident. It would have been negligence. It would have been negligence. So I had another episode. You know, these companies that promise that they can deliver, they make shipping easier for you. You know, sometimes you want to order a dress, or you want to order some medication that you can't get here, or you want to order not necessarily pharmaceuticals, but beauty supplies or anything. You want to order a part that you can't get in St. Lucia, or it's so expensive, you can order it, you can pay the duties on it, and it would still be cheaper. So there are these companies who promise that they can get it to you in quick time, a turnaround time of a day, 24 hours most times, because they have these daily flights coming in and so on and so forth, and they can get it to you in a zippy. I just want to let you, the consumers, know that you've got to take these promises with a grain of salt, okay? With a grain of salt. I know you have heard me say in the past, and I will continue to say, that St. Lucia does not have an unemployment problem. It has an unemployable problem. It doesn't have an unemployment problem per se. It has an unemployable problem. You cannot tell me that you would have had somebody's package. You promise that you have daily flights in. Somebody's package arrives Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They cannot get the package. And when they come to you, you don't come to them. They come to you. You tell them, well, you don't have daily flights. You have flights 3 days a week. But your website says daily flights. And when you guys were seeking out the business, you promised daily flights. But you're saying that you don't have daily flights, you have flights 3 days a week. And in as much as you have flights 3 days a week, you've been having problems with the carrier because the carrier has not been able to take your packages, your goods, your boxes, your cargo down to St. Lucia for you. Yet, doesn't occur to you that your clients may need the packages that they sent to you that you said you can get to them in a zippy. So they're waiting and they're waiting and they're waiting and they're waiting and they cannot get the package, and they come to you and you cannot give them a response. Finally, you promise, okay, you're going to get the package on such and such a date. It's coming on Friday, and so you probably will not get it on the Friday, but they'll work assiduously to get it cleared and to get it to you on the Saturday. And the Saturday comes and goes, and not a word, not a word, not a word. Now, I don't think an employer has to tell an employee that if you have promised a customer something by a certain day, a certain time, and you are unable to deliver, that you are to contact said customer or customers and let them know that you are experiencing some difficulty because you don't have wings, so you can't fly across the globe to collect the packages and bring them to St. Lucia yourself. So you've got to depend on a carrier, cargo carrier, whatever, to bring those packages to you. Would it be such a bother to pick up the phone, to write an email, to send a WhatsApp, to send a text message, an SMS to say, customer, I am so sorry. We promised to deliver a package to you, and we are unable because of whatever technical difficulties that you are experiencing. An employer has to tell an employee to do that? And if an employer has to tell an employee to do that, is it any wonder that small businesses are going out of business at a rapid pace? Because if it is not your business ethos, your business philosophy, your business policy to communicate disappointments to your customers who may be depending on your service to service other clients, then what are you in business for? What are you in business for? If I were an employee at one of these establishments, I wouldn't need my boss to tell me to call the customers and tell the customers, well, I'm sorry. That shows initiative. That shows that you're going over and beyond, even though it may not be the policy of the company, but you are taking the interest of the company, the interest of your employer at heart, and you are following up. And when you follow up, make sure that what you are saying to the client, to the customer, is the truth and nothing but the truth, and it can be backed up. And when you say you're going to do something, do it, because invariably it's going to come back to haunt you. So when you say you're going to change an address, make sure you do it, because guess what? You're going to now, after the customer is now irate, you're going to put the customer on the back foot and put the customer even at further inconvenience, because now the customer has to go out of their way to collect said package. So if I was supposed to collect the package in Vieux Fort, you now are sending me to Castries to collect it, when you should be going out of your way to ensure that this customer does not have one moment more of inconvenience than you've already put them at. Basic common sense. Basic common sense. So again, I say we do not have an unemployment problem. We have an unemployable problem. And Prime Minister after Prime Minister after Prime Minister have said so. Government cannot take more of an interest in you than you take in yourself. So if you are lacking in an area, if you are in customer service and you are lacking in an area, it is upon yourself. It is incumbent upon you to train yourself to be the best employee possible, that you can secure your job, that you're not going on or increasing the rate of unemployment in this country. A lot of us don't understand that. We think we've graduated from school, we've gotten the bare minimum, by the way, in terms of CXCs and KIPs, and we go and we ask for a job, and we're entitled to a job because we went to secondary school, or we went to A-level, or we went to post-sec. And those of us who are lucky enough to get that job, well, I have the job, so I'm entitled to remain in the job, you know, give a substandard service and remain in the job. And at the end of the year, ask for a bonus. And after 2 years, ask for a pay raise, you know. And if we don't get it, go out there and bad talk the company. We don't have an unemployment problem. We have an unemployable problem. People, employees are not taking sufficient interest in themselves. And if they cannot take sufficient interest in themselves, they cannot take interest in the jobs that they have. They will continue to give substandard service. And with the substandard service, what happens? Customers will leave in droves, and the customer leaves in droves. What happens? The company is unable to meet its financial obligations and eventually has to shut down, and boom, you're on the breadline. So I say all of this to say that when you're in a job, you don't always need to get instructions on basic things, common sense things. And you know, older people say common sense isn't so common. I'm beginning to believe that. Common sense isn't so common. You've got maybe hundreds of customers who are waiting and depending on you, and you're forming the fool. You're forming the fool by not informing them that circumstances beyond your control, and we will understand that circumstances beyond your control has prevented you from honoring the contract that you had with your customers, verbal or otherwise. The customer will be a little ticked off because, you know, disappointment, you get disappointed, but you get over it because you know what? Your supplier thought of you and informed you and is trying whatever they can to ensure that the inconvenience that you're going through right now is fixed. Just think about it. All those young people who are working customer service, you can ensure that you have job security by ensuring that you go over and beyond. Don't always wait for that whip to come down on your back and say, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. No, take the initiative. Bosses like that, they're always watching. They're always watching. So when that promotion comes up to be supervisor or whatever, to move up the ranks in another department, they won't necessarily go for the person who has 8 CXCs, 3 A-levels or whatever. They will go for the person who shows more of an aptitude for the job. Somebody who's willing to go over and beyond, ethically of course, to ensure that the job gets done, to ensure that customers remain with the company. So needless to say, the company, those companies who promise things in a jiffy, don't expect anything to happen in a zippy. Expect zip, because that's exactly what you're going to get. So for those of you out there listening and who would want to bring in a package, you can't necessarily afford the DHLs and the FedExes. I know it can be a little bit costly. Weigh your options and your risks very, very carefully before you send your package through one of those companies. And I use that term very lightly. We're due for a break. When we come back, my main grouse for the evening. Stay tuned. See you at the other side of the break. Welcome, Solution. Thank you for staying tuned to what's happening now with Laura. Now, on to a somber note. I often speak about children, my love for children, my desire to mentor, how they make me happy, how I don't want to see anybody hurting children, how parents who are negligent in caring for the children should be, for want of a better phrase, not a literal thing, but should be whipped within an inch of their lives. I have, I'm director for a junior choir in Laborie. And these girls are now boys, because we have 3 boys, mean so much to me, especially the older girls. And I say especially the older girls because they're teenagers and they're going through self-awareness and they're going through all of these angst. And as an older sister, I don't have an older sister. I am the first of my parents' daughters. As a big sister, I know what it's like to be the guardian and the mentor and the protector for your younger sisters. But I also know on the flip side how lonely it can be being the big sister and not having an older sister to talk to and to ask questions and to benefit from their experiences. And you basically navigating those waters by yourself and trying to be the model sister that your younger sisters can look up to, the model daughter that your parents expect you to be because you have the younger ones who are looking up to you, that you're supposed to be helping your parents with these kids because, you know, you're the older one. And community looks at you and thinks, oh, she comes from a good family, they raise her well, there are certain expectations. It's a lot of pressure being an older sister. It's a lot of pressure. And so I look at these teenagers and I try to be not just a friend to them, but a mentor, somebody that they can come to, somebody that they can respect. But somebody that if they're going through something that they can talk to, because sometimes you can't really talk to your parents about certain things, you know, you're a little self-aware, you know, and your parents are not really your friends. They're friendly with you, you know, they raise you, they're the protector, they're the disciplinarian, they're the ones that take care of everything. But sometimes you just need that big sisterly advice. You know, you just want to run an idea because you're afraid of disappointing. It's a disappointment of your parents that you're really afraid of. You're afraid of disappointing them because you're going through this thing. But what a lot of teenage girls in particular don't understand or don't appreciate is that their parents went through that already. Their parents before them would have gone through that. But a lot of times parents are closed off. They try to protect their children from so many things that they forget that they also have to be a friend to their children. So I often have chats with the older girls and I ask them what's going on, who has a boyfriend, you know, what's going on, is there somebody that you like, that you have an eye on, and we rap like that. One particular one of the teenagers, she's very open and I love this about her. I have never caught her in a lie yet. And I say yet because oftentimes teenagers think that they're the first ones going through something and they want to get out of a sticky situation and they'll just tell you something because they think you're not savvy like that. But she's very open. So we're talking and she told me a story about another little girl, one of her peers. And that little girl, I knew her very well because she also happened to be in my niece's class at primary school. And she used to call me auntie. So, she's very dear to me. And a story came out. And she told me about how that particular child had done a sex tape. And I was shocked. I didn't really know how to deal with it. And I asked her how she felt about it. And there were a few others, and I asked them how they felt about it. And, they were honest and open, and they said, Miss, oh my gosh, I cannot believe she did this. I would never do that. And I hope that is so, that they would never do it. And I'm a little uncomfortable because this is, a lot of the times you talk about things, it's not in your background, in your backyard. It hasn't struck home, and so you can talk about it. But when it hits so close to home, you're a little bit shaken to your core. And I thought to myself, well, it couldn't have been that bad, because normally when these things happen, I get maybe the video sent to me 52 times. And I often have to tell people, you know, hey, what you're in effect doing is distributing pornography. So you got to stop, even if you want to let me know about it because you know I have a passion for those things, you in effect are distributing pornography. And oftentimes when these things are distributed, the commentary that goes with it, it's not very kind to the stars of the video. So it had never crossed my phone. Nobody had ever sent it to me. And outside of that young girl telling me about it, I hadn't heard it about it from anybody else. So in my mind, I concluded that it wasn't that big of a deal. It was a big deal, but it wasn't that big of a deal because it's not making the rounds. It's not gone viral until it did. And I promised to speak to the mother of the young lady in question because I know the family. But it slipped my mind. For some reason, it slipped my mind, and I never remembered to, and I never remembered about the incident until it got to my phone sometime last week. And I was so appalled. It was worse than I thought. And sometimes we ask ourselves, why would a young girl, a teenager, do something like that? But more importantly, having done it, you know, you a lot of the times these young girls are misguided. They're with someone, especially an older guy, and he is asking for affection. And if you loved me, you would be affectionate toward me. And this is the way they want to show their affection. They're not talking about a hug or a peck on the cheek, you know, or holding hands or a shoulder rub. They're talking about something else. They're talking about sex. They're talking about sexually explicit activities. And I dare say, activities that I wasn't even aware existed until I was a young adult. And I'm not talking about a teenager. I'm talking about in my 20s. You know, I got exposed to certain things in my 20s. I lived a very sheltered life. I will admit, I've always admitted I lived a very sheltered life. My parents shielded me from a lot of things, and that is what parents are supposed to do. So for instance, until I was 16, I couldn't watch movies or any television program that had kissing in it. And I'm talking about, you know, dip kissing. I couldn't. I couldn't watch excessively sad movies because I was a very emotional child. So my mom had to vet the movies that I watched before I watched them. Thank God on television we didn't have the proliferation of television stations that we do have now, and we didn't have the proliferation of movies as we do have now on television. So a lot of the movies that I would have watched would have been on VHS, you know, on videotape, cassettes. Yeah, that's how old I am. And so they would vet those movies, and if it was a little too sad, then I wouldn't watch it because I would be bawling my eyes out, and I'm so emotional, you know, it gets to me. And if it had any sexually explicit content, and when I say sexually explicit content, I'm saying just deep kissing, I couldn't watch it. And that happened up until I was 16. That's what parents are supposed to do. They're supposed to shield their children. They're not supposed to expose their children to a lot of things. They're supposed to give their children guidelines and rules, and they're supposed to put them in a box. You know, and often it's the duty of the child, it's your job as a child to push those boundaries, to push the envelope, to try to get out of that box that builds character. But your parents are supposed to be there to guide you. That's their job. That's their job. So any parent who's not guiding and who's not protecting, you're not doing your job. By being your child's friend and best friend and exposing them to all sorts of things, you're not doing your child any justice. You're not doing your child any worthwhile you're not doing anything good for your child when you do that. Yes, you have to be your child's friend, but first and foremost, you're the parent. You know, and a lot of parents think that because when they were kids, they didn't get the opportunity to go and do anything that they wanted. So now that they're parents, they're giving their children the liberty to go out, you know, no curfews. I didn't have curfew when I was growing up, by the way, although I lived a very sheltered life. But I knew that I had to be in by dark because it's the way my parents raised me. So a curfew does not always have to be home by 6. It doesn't have to be a hard and fast rule where you rigid. That's not what I'm talking about. It doesn't have to be rigid. But it has to be there, implied or otherwise, and your kids have to know that it is there, that there are certain things that they cannot do, that they cannot go beyond that boundary. So I didn't have very many opportunities to get into trouble as a kid, you know, because I went to school, I came home, I went to confirmation class, I came home, I went to choir with my grandma, I came home, you know, but I had fun. I had fun as a child, and lots of fun at school. But kids nowadays, there are so many more opportunities to do wayward things. So if they don't have it at home, the love of a father, perhaps, the constant attention from a father figure, they will go out there and look for it. And they will be groomed by older boys, older men, and they will be made to feel special, and they will want that attention and that affection, so-called affection, all the time. And so it is easy for them to be led astray and for them to say, well, if I don't do it, he will leave me, and he will leave me for another girl who is willing to put out. So it's between us. I will do it. I may not want to do it, but I will do it anyway because I love him, or so they think. He loves me, or so they think. It's going to be between the two of us. It's in private. Nobody will know. I'm just going to satisfy him. And so they do these things. So oftentimes, ever so often, you will get a video circulating of a young school girl performing fellatio on a boy or a man. Their face is exposed, and the guy's identity is a secret. The guy's identity is well hidden, but their faces are in that video. So the faces are exposed, but the guy's face is not exposed. So you'll find a lot of the times that there are these girls performing these acts on these guys, fellatio or full-blown out. And fellatio is just another word for oral sex. I'm sorry if there are kids out there, moms and dads, you don't want them hearing these things, but it is very vital that we use the proper words and don't have our kids going out there willy-nilly and thinking it's all flowery and all of that, and it's not. So the actual word for it is fellatio, but we call it oral sex, and that's what it is. So if you don't want your kids hearing this, I think this is, well, it's past the time for you to put them out of the room. But this is an education, not just for the child, but for the parents as well. So you'll have these girls doing those things, but they think it's private. He loves me, and it's just for us, and it's just for kicks, until he sends it to his partner. Who sends it to his partner? Who sends it to his partner who used to like you, but you never liked him? And he's like, what? I had so much respect for that girl, and that is what she's doing? And takes it and broadcasts it all over the place. Slut shaming, revenge porn. Those are terms that have become a part of our lexicon. Those are words, phrases that I didn't know growing up. Revenge porn, slut shaming. I didn't know these terms. These are very recent terms. And that's what's happening to our girls. They think they're in love with a guy who tells them that they're in love with them. But if they want to keep that affection, and if they love them as much as they say they do, they will do these things. And they do it. And then it doesn't satisfy him anymore that you're just willing to do it. You must do it on camera. Let me tell you something, young girls. It's not worth it. If you are going to take that step at 13, 14, 15, sometimes even younger, 12 and 11, and you're going to take that step to do those things, you think you're mature enough to make that decision, but you're not. Just the mere fact that you consider doing it means that you are not at that maturity level to handle it, but you think you are, and you're making that decision. If there is anything that you will know not to do, is to put it on video. Because once it is on video, especially if it's on his phone, there's nothing you can do about it. It becomes his property to do with whatever he wishes. The only thing is, pornography and the distribution of pornography, particularly of minors, is illegal. So you're balancing on one foot, on the little toe of that one foot. Because you're basically giving away your rights. The rights to your body, the rights to your privacy, you're basically giving that away. Because you think you know, but you don't know. And that is why parents are there. And sometimes we think parents are being so unfair, but they're not. They're only doing what they're doing to protect you. And I'm not speaking about those kids. I'm not speaking to those kids who don't have the responsible parent, whose parents don't care. Tonight, I am focusing on those kids who are raised in a home with at least one parent. And that parent may seem or come across as extremely strict. These are the children I'm speaking to, because they want to rebel and they want to push. That's your job. That's your job, to push and to see how far you can go. But always remember, if you want to do adult things, you have to be prepared to take on the adult consequences of those things. That is not to say, and that is not to take away from the fact that there are leeches, predators, and pedophiles out there who are preying on our young innocent girls. And I say innocent because they are. They think they know, but they do not know. And just because they are engaging in sexual activity does not mean that they are not innocent. They are simply misguided. And a lot of times we ridicule, we excoriate, we cast them aside, we heap any amount of pressure and disgusting terms, derogatory terms to them, and we destroy their tenuous hold on sanity. And then when these kids can no longer take it and they commit or complete suicide, we say, what in the heck did they have to worry about? What problems could they possibly have had that they would even think of suicide, much less completing it? Well, you are culpable just as much as the person who videotaped them in a private moment and broadcast it everywhere. You see, young girls, and I'm speaking to you now, oftentimes you think you know someone, but you don't. You're not yet at that maturity level to discern, because even adults sometimes fall prey to predators. And if adults whose mental faculties are well developed can fall prey to predators who are you, who is just developing not to fall prey. So you think you know. So you're in this private situation, you think you're in love, and you do this. But if you're going to do it, make sure it's on your phone. Make sure that the video is done with your phone, with your property, and that it remains your property. And I know some parents must be thinking, why is she advising my child? Because if you do not, the consequences, the after effects will be, the rippling effect will be way more than you, the adults, can handle. So they've got to know. You're going to do this thing, you think you're adult enough to handle it, make sure that the video that is being done is done on your phone. Because when it is done on your phone, you control the content. You control who sees it. You control where it goes. But if it's on his phone, it is his property to do with as he pleases, to show it to whomever he wants. And then what? And then what? And to you, these guys who are out there, because I know that sometimes you're misguided as well. Here's a scenario. Your name is Paul, and your best friend's name is John. Do you know that oftentimes you, Paul, are not John's best friend? John is your best friend, but you are not John's best friend. John's best friend is Carrie. So when you're sharing your little secrets, Paul, you're sharing your little secrets with John, and you think it is between us, bro. You know, that's what me and my girl, how we go down, and da, and you send it to him, and you bump in fists, and yeah, boy, this is how it's done. And you think it's kept between Paul, John, and Paul's girlfriend. Meanwhile, John has a best friend named Carrie. And John is going to share that with Carrie because Carrie is his best friend. Boy, you see what Paul and his girlfriend doing. Hey, that's between us bros that I ain't going nowhere. But likewise, Carrie is your best friend, John. But you, John, are not Carrie's best friend. Carrie's best friend is Peter. And so it goes and it goes and it goes until the whole world knows about it. These are things that happen. Doesn't just happen to girls who, have cliques. Guys have cliques too. And they have the bro code. And they think that the bro code is tighter than the girlfriend code. But guess what? It isn't. Because we are all human beings. And we all want to share salacious news with everybody else. Because we want to be in it. We want to be the first person to know. And when we see the girl walk in and we sit and we talk to her and we come and we touch her bum and we tell her, pass it. And she's, flings up her nose and turns up her nose and she says, what the hell do you think it is? And then you'll want to say, I know what you're doing. Yeah, I know what you're doing. These are lives that you're destroying. And then you go and you upload this on Facebook and Instagram. You're ruining a life. This young girl has to go to school and face her peers. She has to walk the streets of her community. She grows up and she has to get a job. And social media is not just for the millennials. It's not just for the young ones. Everybody is tapping into social media, Facebook and the like, to see what the potential employment pool is like. And we all want to believe that should not affect what's between my ears, the gray matter in my head, what I can contribute. But it does. Because it says to a potential employer that you're reckless, that you don't think, that you lack the maturity to make proper sound decisions. That is what is at stake. That is what is being affected. And some of you parents, you're clueless. You're clueless. Clueless. You have children, you have young girls in your home that are going out there. They're performing these acts. They're engaging in these activities, and you don't know until you come home and find them hanging from the ceiling or have swallowed pills, and you don't know why. And you don't know why. And oftentimes, it's because you weren't attentive. You weren't attentive. You know, we plop our children in front of a television and we tell them, stay there, I go into work. And we don't put adult supervision with them. We don't give them adult supervision. Or we send them to practice and they go out there practicing to whatever, you know, and they come home late and we don't question them where you come from. When I was a child growing up, if I told my mom I was going to be somewhere and I came back later than I'm supposed to be back, and she asks me and she's not satisfied, she will call the team leader. Call the team leader. Was Laura at practice such and such a time? What time did practice end? Thank you very much, ma'am. Laura, why did you practice end at 4 and you got home at 6? That is what it's supposed to be. I'm not saying that you hold your teenagers so tight that you can't let them go anywhere. No, you let them. You give them the opportunities, but you take an active role. You keep your eyes open and your ears open, and you ask them questions. You talk with them. How was school today? You know, I speak to my niece all the time, and I say to her, how was school today? And by the look she gives me, I answer with her, school was school. But there are times when I see that little light in her eyes, and I like, whoa, let's sit down and let's have a, you know, let's talk about it, because I know something happened and she wants to share. And we talk about it. So nobody can come and tell me anything about my niece that I don't already know, because she tells me everything. She tells her mom everything. Oh my God, she tells her dad everything. That's how it's supposed to be. I tell people all the time, my mom is my best friend. I didn't always feel like that. But as I got older, I realized, oh yeah, my mom is my best friend. Because anything that happens, I go to her. If I need advice on relationships, I go to her. If I need advice on work, I go to her. If I need advice on business, I go to her. That's my best friend. And she was a tough disciplinarian, let me just tell you. I mean, she didn't have to bit me for me to get the point. But I got it. And even as a teenager, when I left home, even as a young adult in my 20s, when I was living on my own, if I did a hair in my head, oh, you know, maybe you shouldn't have done that. I don't think mama would appreciate that. So, you know, like, we like to quote this scripture passage, raise your children in the right way, and when they are older, they will not depart. We need to do that. You don't have to be a Christian to follow that principle. If you teach your kids the right way, 99% of the time, they will continue in that vein. But you can't teach them, you can't tell them one thing and then do something else. Because children, we like to say children like monkeys. Monkey see, monkey do. So you'll tell me not to do something, but you're doing that same something that you told me not to do. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to do what I see you doing, not what you told me not to do. And then we want to lash out and we want to beat them and we want to do all sorts of things. Hey, how many times have I told you not to do? But I've seen you doing that very same thing. So why are you lying to me? Why are you teaching me to be a liar? Parenting is very, very difficult. But it's a very important role. And parents, you have to take that role very seriously. Very seriously. We're due for another break. When we come back, the lines will be open. The number to call is 451-9788. The WhatsApp platform is 284-6536. And the email address to send us your emails is laurajapia@gmail.com. We'll see you at the other side of the break. Yes, welcome back, and thank you for staying tuned in. And the messages have started coming in. You know, it is sad it is extremely sad when you try to help young people and they don't get it. They don't get it. They think you're trying to retard them. They think you're jealous of them. It begs the question, where would they get that? Where would they get that from? Like, where would they think that them being a child, 13, 14, 15, 12, 11, you're a child and you think an adult would be so envious of you, an adult who, by the way, has gone to school, did exceptionally well, have a good paying job, great member of society, contributing member to society, doesn't have a need for anything, and that the only thing that they would be is jealous of you or envious of you, that they would like to see you down and not having fun. But they had fun. But they had fun growing up. So why would they want to deny that of you? And a lot of the times, and especially I'm speaking to our young girls tonight in particular. I'm speaking to our young girls tonight. A lot of the times you think it's all about the latest outfits, and you think it's all about looking good, and you slim and trim and sexy and all of that. And all the boys want a sip of your milkshake. 5 years from now, look for them. Ask yourself, where are they? All the boys who wanted your milkshake, where are they? Where are they? And all the adults who wanted good for you, but you resisted, where are they? Look around you. I am certain there are young women today who would now be the mothers of 2 or 3 children, not even 25, and already have 2 babes. And ask them, what was it like growing up, pushing that boundary, breaking down those walls, going out there and having all that fun? Ask them today at age 25 if they're still having fun. If they're still having fun with the 2 children by the 2 different fathers, and that they're now seeing a 3rd and possibly pregnant with a 3rd baby in their tummies and they don't yet know it, for a 3rd man. Ask them if they're still having fun. If all the bacchanal and all the partying and all the rebellion, if it was worth it. See, a lot of the times, young girls, you don't listen. You don't listen. I will never forget. I will recall constantly this young, I think she was from Ancillary Canneries, that area there. And she lost an eye. She lost several digits on her hand. Why? Because she was with this murderous boyfriend that her parents had spoken to her about, that she wouldn't listen. And she was escaping and going to this guy all the time until she realized, hey, that's abuse, that's not love, and tried to live an hour. By that time, you know that song that Farmer Nappy has for this year that's making the waves? You're hooking me, Baby, please don't let me go. Yeah, you know how you hooking me and how he just cannot leave? Yeah, until she wanted to leave and she couldn't leave. And he made a vow that if he cannot have her, nobody else could. And chopped her down like a side of beef outside of KFC, Rodney Bay. She will never forget that. I want you girls to remember that constantly when you're out there trying to get a good time, and when you will let these guys influence you, moms, dads, especially the dads of young daughters who do not want to stay home for a minute to spend time with your girlfriends and your wives and your daughters, in particular your daughters, because having fun is what it's at. Going out there and having fun with your boys and drinking, that's where it's at, and you don't spend sufficient time with your madam and your children, and you think you'll have time enough for that. You can never get back time that has gone by. And then when you hear your daughter in the house pregnant, or your daughter was abused by somebody, you're ready to lose your mind. You're ready to lose your mind. Yeah, because you can't believe this is happening to your daughter. This is happening to your child. But where were you? Where were you when they were growing up? Where were you? And then this little baby girl, she grows up. Daddy never home. Daddy never has time for me. Daddy only has time for the boys. So I go and look for the boys too, because that's where it's at. And maybe if I find the boys, I can find what it is that daddy's always looking for with the boys. And I can find it. And if I find it, maybe I can make daddy finally see me. But daddy don't see you then. Because by that time, daddy's so jaded because what he thought he had, the gem he thought he had, is not what he has. You know? Respect yourself. The lines are open. The number to call is 451-9788. The WhatsApp platform is 284-6536. And the email address to send your messages to is laurajapier@gmail.com. Having a little difficulty here with my technology, yeah? And so bear with me as I'm trying to pick it up, to find my slip. Yeah. We have a call. Thank you for calling. You're on the air.
Hi, good night, and how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Oh, I'm very fine. That's a very nice program, very interesting program. But listen, let me tell you something. They got murders. I'm so happy you bring up that program up. And I wish some of the mothers, the young mothers, will sit down and listen to you. Because some mothers, they think they're mothers, but they are not mothers. You understand? I grew up 3 children. 2 girls and 1 boy. The first one is 38. That's a girl. The second one is 30. That's a boy. And the last one is 22. And I lost my husband at the early age, at the age of 46. And then I raised up my last daughter. And thank you, Jesus, that I brought her up. Up a day like today. She's 22. She's not living with me anymore. She's away. But the way I brought her up, she still have the steam in her. And I used to say to her, my girl, take your time. I'll always ask her question. Sometimes at school, teacher have to sit and call me and ask me what's going wrong between my daughter and I and my husband. Nothing. She wasn't talking. Because the thing about it, I just put her to sit down and tell her, I'm sending you to school. I don't want no teacher to sit and call me for nothing about you. You know what you want in life? Yes. You see your father and your mother working hard. So I want the best of all. And after passing away of my husband, it was hard on me, but I get through in it. She wrote 7 subjects, she get all 7. I tied up my belt. And I do what I have to do. And then I always tell her, my girl, let me tell you, you're a pretty girl. Anybody tell you pretty, tell them you have mirror room. My mommy does tell me how pretty am I. So I always play in my mind, make her to sit down, talk to her, go to the school and ask questions about her. And everybody will come and tell me, why, madam, you never met my sabi, eh? I left her here and I just traveled. When I come back, no complaint, no report. Because I always telling her, girl, you are the apple of my eyes. Because your father passed away at the age of 12. You was 12, and I brought you up the way I want. And each time I still pray, thank you, Jesus, for the way I brought my last daughter up. The boys, the same thing. I send the boy to school. Anything he do in the school, they send him call me. I'll go in the school and I'll give him what he wants his backside in the school self. The first one, 3 of them was in her class. They have competition within 3 of them. She was always coming first. Once she come home with a report book, when I have a look of it, she come out second. I roll her and I give her a good beating. I tell her, listen, when you coming out first, they haven't got no reason for it to come out second. When you're in front of somebody, don't let that person take in front of you. Because when you walk in and you're in front of somebody, the person have to run for them to meet you. You understand where I'm coming from? So then from that, when I give her a good beating, she say, Mommy, I'm sorry, the reason why I come out second, I didn't take it serious. I say, well, you will take it serious. That's what you need. I give her a good beating. And she left school. She never come out second. Always first. So when you put your effort in your children, make them to sit down and tell them what all about it is not about boys and things. You will always see boys. The same way you see a nice clothes today, tomorrow you see another nice clothes, after tomorrow another nice clothes. That's how it's going. So you have to take care of yourself. And mothers have to take care of their children, talk to their children the way they're supposed to talk to their children. And one thing again, mothers have to know what to do in front of their children. Because some mothers don't care. Some mothers send their children look for a lavy for them. When the children come in for what they come, they can never ask them why they take it. I'm not the one that give it to you. They will enjoy it. But I'm not that type of mother. I pray in tongues with Jesus at all times. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have a blessed night, and I like your show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. A lot of what this last caller said there is very similar to how I grew up, except for the beating part. I have come second in class and my mom don't beat me because I didn't come first. Yes, she will have the talk with me and say, and especially my dad. My dad would say to me, if you used to come in first, there's no reason for you to now fall to second place. What's up with that? You know? And sometimes it hurt my feelings because it's like I still did well, but you know, you can't always come first. Somebody else will want it more than you, and somebody else will have a better understanding of a certain subject matter than you. So I don't agree with that part. But I agree with sitting with your child and speaking to them and asking them what went wrong. If you're used to coming first and you all of a sudden come in second, that's a sign something is wrong. What is wrong? Let's talk about it. Let's fix it. You know, you don't have to wait until the person is now falling way back in the last percentile of the class for you to say, oh, whoa, something is wrong. But the beating part, I'm not, because I don't believe in corporal punishment anyway. So I don't agree with, I don't subscribe to that. But absolutely, you speak with your child. You have to speak with your child. You have to know what their desires are, what their dreams are for the future. How can you help them to achieve? But at the end of the day, the hard work, the real work has to be put in by the child. So you can only give them the tools. We have another call online. Thank you for calling. You're on the air. Hello?
Good night.
Yes, good night.
Hello, Mr. Lara. Good night.
Good night, my dear.
Moi la cave ka koute ou. Mais un chayman man pa ka jeme kuyo bisi yo sa yo about. Si ou son maman qui passe à lever, je suis pour lever. Moi-même, ni c'est garçon comme selfie. Et qui ont bien levé. Mais, qualité, c'est pas là qui n'y a actuellement. Maman, même quand on y chie, bah, mon endroit. Il n'y a pas qu'à point précaution, qui ça y aura fait. Si tu as mal à dans un cellphone, ou pas ça bali. Toute manière, il n'y a pas iPhone pour jouer un cellphone. Bon, mon n'a pas cellphone pour un comment. Ça pourquoi tu as qui calé là. So, chaque maman pas nous responsable pour y chier. Là, on va là, il fait, on va venir à la TV, il est un beau ish, mais en dehors, là, il y a une jeune femme qui est même. Est-ce que ça, ça y aura fait? So, moi, là, à couteau, tout le monde est chaud, là.
Merci.
Là, il qui parle de salle de bis.
Merci, merci. OK. OK, so, oui, merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
And she's right. You have to raise your children. You have to let your children know. So if you, like she said, the example of the cell phone, if your child wants a cell phone and you cannot give it to them, you have to explain. You know, a lot of the times parents say, money say, must afford, and they don't treat the children with love. And so the children want it because all their friends have it and you have not had the conversation with them. So they're going to go out there and get it. Now, once they get it, you know you didn't give it to them. Why must you accept it in your home? Why must you accept it? And she's right, because whomever gave it to her didn't give it to her for free. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Now, somebody is saying to me, we're having a conversation here, and they're saying, you know, there are children that, you know, they call, these are teachers. They call the parents into school if they're having a problem with a child or just, and they never show up. They never show up. What's up with that, parents? We have another call online. Thank you for calling. You're on the air.
Hello, Laura.
Yes?
Why you really looking attractive there, my girl? Wow. Congratulations. You really
Thank you. Oh, wow. That was the sum total of the... But thank you very much. That made me blush a little bit. Thank you very much. Yeah, and then they don't come. So if a teacher has responsibilities for your child for 8 hours in a day, and they're the ones seeing all what you're not seeing, because maybe when you're at home, the child is a model child, and the teacher is calling you in to have a conversation with you about your child, why would you not come? Why would you not come? Why would you think that everything your child does is right when you're not even there to see and to gauge for yourself? Now, there is an email somebody sent me. I'm listening to you for the first time, and I am happy at what you are saying. From the carelessness on the roads to the raising of children. I have a 9-year-old daughter, and trust me, I understand what you are saying. But the young women in St. Lucia need to understand that they don't need a man to make them whole or special, especially if they are abusive. Amen to that. Amen to that. And yeah, I'm going to send you you are requesting for a discussion on customer care. I will send you an email. We'll have a discussion on that. But you're quite right in that statement that you said. They have to understand that they don't need a man. And if at 14 and 15 you feel you need to have that attention, that affection from a guy, that you would drop all of your morals to a side to accommodate that guy, what is happening in the home that makes you feel that the love of your mom or the love of your dad isn't enough, that you have to get that affection and that attention from that guy who wants you to do what he wants you to do and put it on tape? What is happening in your psyche? What psychologically is broken within you? That is what you feel you must do. I'm telling you that there are a lot of young women out there at age 25 with 2 children and 3 and 4 children. I'm telling you, age 25. And all these children are with different men. And they're still not finding that elusive love that they're seeking. And if you have a child with a guy and you have 2 children with another guy, and you're not getting it, why would you not want to protect yourself to ensure that that doesn't happen again? We have another call online. Thank you for calling. You're on the air. Hello?
Hello, Miss Lara.
Yes, could you speak up, please? I can hardly hear you.
Hello, Miss Lara. Say good evening.
Good evening, Jim.
I love your program a lot, man.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much for calling. I'm happy. I'm touching with the viewers, but I would like you to share your opinions as well, and what's your opinion on it, and what you are going through, or if you have any experiences with these things. Yes. There are children, and I'm having quite a bit of teachers. I'm reading the comments there, who are saying that sometimes they have 5, 6, and 7 children giving problems, and the parents don't come, and how you have to deal with that. You have to deal with that. You have to deal with the other children in your class. And a lot of the times, you only have one counselor, and that's the other thing in the schools. You have one counselor to deal with the myriad of children. So maybe a child might have a lesser issue than another. But when you have that child who's being abused at home, or who's acting out, who's going out there, whose only focus is getting the attention of the boys and da 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 da, da, and then that's a big case that you have to deal with, and then you have to deal with all the other children, and there's only the one counselor. What's up with that? We need help. Our children need help. I mean, when children are making videos like that, where does it end? And I'm telling you, some of the parents are clueless. They don't know. They don't know that these are the things that are happening to their children. They don't know. How could you have a child at home? Doesn't she act differently? Doesn't she act differently because she knows what she's done? She knows. So you're coming from a party, or you're coming from wherever you're coming from, and you've just done that, and you're telling me you're walking in home, and nothing is different, nothing is untoward, and then the video is now out there, and you know that the video is out there, and you're such a good manipulator, you're such a good actress. Your mom does not even know, your dad does not recognize, your sisters, your brothers, your family, your friends. Nobody sees, nobody knows, nobody's is having an intervention. You know, and we're all snickering behind our hands and gaddy, this, that. And then what? You know, you don't have a life, a proper life. I mean, you could be the most confident person in the whole world, and you could rise above that, but it's always going to be haunting you. And I pray to God that a lot of the girls, if not all of the girls who are going through this, that they rise above it. Because you know what? That does not have to be your defining moment. It does not have to be your crowning inglorious infamy. It doesn't have to be that. You can rise above it, but it's what happens inter alia. It's what happens while you're trying to rise above it. And I'm making that special appeal to parents to please be aware of what's happening with your children, particularly your girl children. I'm telling you, this video rocked me to the core. I couldn't finish watching it. I watched the first maybe 30 seconds, and I couldn't finish. I couldn't. You know, and it can happen to anybody. It doesn't have to happen to the child from the wrong side of the tracks. It can happen to the child who was raised in a two-parent household, whose parents give them everything, who ensures that they have the best of everything, that they're not wanting for anything, that when they go to school, they are equipped, they have all the school books, all the school tools, that they are engaged in extracurricular activities, you know? They're not restricted. They're not restricted. This can happen to them. And it does. And it does. And it begs the question, why? Why do these girls feel that lack of self-love, that sense of they have no appreciation for who they are? No appreciation for who they are. That they could just do these things and just walk away from it. How does it feel to know that you've done this with this boy, whether he's 16, 17, 18, 19, or 25, he's a boy? Because you don't do that. Because you know that is a minor. And you know if you get caught, you will go to no amount of she told me she was 16, no amount of well she wanted it is going to save you. It's called statutory rape. When you have sexual contact with a child under the age of 16, it's called statutory rape, and no matter how many times she said yes, no matter how she dogged you for it, she cannot by law ask for it. So if you were to be caught, it would be straight to the calaboose for you because you raped a minor, so to speak. And that brings me to another topic, another issue. Those parents who now find out that that's what's happening to their child and they take a wajima. Let me just let you know, you're also breaking the law. Because wajima is illegal. You cannot take wajima. No amount of money is going to bring back your daughter's dignity. Okay? No amount of money is going to erase what has been put on social media. No amount of money is going to fix it. So you now, as mom, as dad, as grandmama and grandpapa, as nenen and pawe and auntie and tonton and beau-père and all of that, you have to take your responsibility and do right by your children. You've got to do right by your children. And when that sucker is found out, deal with him accordingly. Papa PS wajima. Wajima not fixing it. And I know you're going to be worried. You're going to say, well, it's better to take the wajima because then we go to court and my child have to go to court and everybody have to see my child and they have to know what happened to my child. The time for that has passed. Okay? The time for that has passed. If you don't want that to be the fate of your child, start looking at your children carefully. Start being there for them. Start observing them. Start talking with them. Start getting to know who their friends are. Start asking them about their feelings. You can find ways to do it. You can find ways to do it. Deal with your child on a personal level. Because if you don't, somebody else will. Somebody else will find that gap. Somebody else will come in and feel that void that your child is feeling. Somebody else will come in and realize that your child is missing something and promise them the world. Meanwhile, they have nothing but predatory thoughts on their minds. Parents, I am begging you. I am asking you. When you see, a lot of times we have these children, we give them the cell phones because we want to be in contact, but we do not go through those phones. If your child has a phone, it has 262 names in it. It has WhatsApp downloaded on it. But none of the open chats have any messages. Something is wrong. I'm telling you, nobody does that. Nobody does that. You mean to tell me there's not a one conversation that you would have with anybody that you will want to revisit? You wipe off every conversation, every chat. That is the first sign that something is wrong. Don't fool yourself. Do not delude yourself into thinking that my child don't talk to nobody. Why she has 262 phone numbers on her phone? Why she has 262 contacts on her WhatsApp if she ain't talking to nobody? Find out. That is a sign that your child is engaging in activity that she ought not to. She knows she's not supposed to, but she does it anyway, and she's trying to blow you by deleting everything. I am doing nothing wrong. I am a model child. Wrong. Open your eyes. If you have no need for the phone, confiscate it. You have no need for it. You ain't talking to nobody. You ain't calling nobody. Your phone never have any recent numbers called. It has no messages saved on it. It has nothing. Something is wrong. If your child has a phone, 3/4 of the numbers belong to guys, something is wrong. And she ain't talking to none of them. She ain't calling none of them. None of them ain't calling her. She's not talking to them. Children don't even pick up the phone and call people anymore. It's WhatsApp. It's WhatsApp. Toujours à ce phone, naka WhatsApp. Selfie. Voyez portrait. Not one picture that your child has sent to anybody. Not one person has sent her a picture, funny or otherwise. Not one message, not nothing. People, we're all out of time. But as I leave, I implore of you, particularly the mothers who have partners who are abroad. So you have a husband, but your husband is outside of the country working hard to support you and your family. And so you are left by no choice of your own. You are left to raise your children on your own, be mother and father. Be very, very, very careful. Something is up with your children if they're not talking to you, and if some of the things that I have spoken about tonight manifest themselves. Speak with your children. Open your eyes. Speak with them, and even when they try to push you away, pull them closer to you, because this is the only way you can protect your children. Until next week, adieu.